You passed your luck check. It's
The No Class Podcast.
with the ghost of Eddie.
And Matt from the great beyond.
All right, well, welcome to episode 52, if you can believe that. Can you believe it's 52 episodes already, Matt?
I cannot believe it, sir. I will not be compelled to believe it.
It doesn't feel like we even did a 50th.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? It's crazy.
Strange.
Strange days, sir. Strange days. Let me adjust my barbecue freak hat.
Oh, barbecue. I thought that said something else.
I know. Duh.
No awkward silences. No lulls in the action.
Ever. So, first things first, and I know
Long
you're not
con.
going to believe this.
Long con.
I'm going to talk
Long
about
con,
long
long
con.
con.
That's right. So, as always, anybody that's long-time listener, first-time caller, you know that, our excitement waxes and wanes, but we tend to prop each other up, etc. But I'm really getting excited about the impending long con.
So conversely, I have to get unexcited.
You were excited?
Oh, if folks, this would be the perfect time for us to have the video podcast because on our broadcast table right now, there's 2,000, 5,000 worth of Dwarven Forge.
Yeah, there's an obscene amount of Dwarven Forge on this table, and it's gorgeous.
Beautifully painted by our in-house musician, Bradley, and our in-house painter, Ron.
Yeah. And they've done a beautiful job. It's just gorgeous. And so as a teaser, I posted pictures to both the Long Con page and the North Texas RPG page, and it's gotten a lot of good attention. It's gorgeous. I mean, and we stole the idea from Bill Barsh.
Who stole it from somebody else.
Exactly.
But this is stolen with permission, so I guess maybe it's borrowed.
Yeah, I guess. And he seemed to be enthused with what we had done.
Yeah, he said we really took it up a notch.
Yeah. And so we did a demo. We did like a test game yesterday. Eddie did, and
So did you.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to participate, and I think we had some good feedback, and we've got some good ideas to kind of hone. Already, Eddie had implemented some really brilliant ideas for how he wanted to do it, and I can't wait to run it at the con. And those playing, I think they're going to have a good win or lose. They're going to have a good time.
Yeah, and as I have said hundreds of times since this has been sitting on my table, a lot of people are just going to see the Dwarven Forge and go, this is a good game.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, honestly, this is just like playing an old style MMO kind of, or Diablo, where you're literally just marching from room to room, fighting beasties,
Hack and slash.
taking their loot. But for those that get it, there's deeper strategies.
Get it?
And that's where, for me, by the way, who won yesterday? I can't remember.
I think Ron did. Was it Ron?
It was me.
Oh.
But anyway, that's because having played something like this already, I understood.
So you had an unfair advantage is what you're saying.
Exactly. And that's what you should always do is have
So technically Ron won.
Well, yeah, if you want to go look at it that way. But you know what? You know who really won? Everyone who played. They were all winners.
Well, one thing I will say about this, after you play it once, it makes you want to play again because it gives you that, but what if I had done this? And you do start thinking about your strategy, like, what if I'd gone left instead of right? What if I had opened this door instead of that door? Or what if I had had a team?
What if I teamed up sooner? What if I divorced quicker? Whatever. So that was too funny. Broke up the team, so to speak.
Definitely not divorced.
Definitely not divorced. Who gets divorces around here? But I'm just going to say that's where, like, you hit the nail on the head. That
Thank you.
That and I talked about this yesterday with them at the table. Like, think deeper. There are deeper strategies, and that's where I could see someone playing it, going, "Crap! If only I'd done X, Y, Z." Well, that's actually you want to play again.
And
so
the other thing that I don't remember if you had jetted off at this point, but I said this is also the kind of thing that is a perfect example of why you should go to a con. Because do you have $5,000 worth of beautifully painted Dwarven Forge and a place to set it up and leave it set up for a while? And then can you get your whole party together, which in this day and age, getting 6 people around a table is a big deal. but can you get 18 to 20 people so that you can actually make a tournament of it?
Yeah. And so, yeah, this is a tournament. Now, it's going to be fun to play. Even there are people that are going to stumble into these games going, this is a tournament? I'm going to be like, ugh. But anyway, and they'll have fun. But the people that understand it's a tournament and they try to really strategize and play well, I mean, good fortune to you. We've got some beautiful trophy, and we've got some medal award, hangs around your neck on a ribbon, big medal, second and third place.
Medal.
Yeah, we've got cash prizes, and then I'm going to have some other swag goodie giveaways to give to people. And so, yeah, people are going to have bragging rights.
So the cash prizes is basically going to be the equivalent of 2 badges for first place, 1 badge for second place. So, I mean, you just paid for your entry into the con and or got something on top of it.
Yeah.
And then third place is still going to go home with about half of the price of a badge. So, I mean, it's a good way to pay the costs.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, and I'm tickled that this is going to be the thing that's going to be the first thing to be in the, going forward, our con has the Doug Ray room, and this will adorn the table in that room for the majority of the weekend. So, again, what a great homage, a tribute to a guy, who brought so much fun and adventure in gaming or whatever. Hopefully,
and I'm sure he'd like this. He would enjoy this.
I think so, yeah. So that's really cool. But anyway, anything else about the long con, sir?
Just because we've already mentioned beautifully painted and Ron so much, out of the corner of my eye, I am looking at the Storm Giant that was donated by our buddy TJ from Game Night Games and painted by Ron.
Game Night Games?
That's right. Say it again. Say it loud. Say it proud.
Game Night Games.
So if you're looking for fine printed minis, that's the person to check out. Yep. And if you need quality paint jobs, there's Ron, and he said that took, I believe, 80 hours.
Wow. No, it's beautiful work. The beard, the veins, the musculature, the wounds, everything. He did a great job with all of it. It's gorgeous. Really, the detail pops. It's very, very great work, as always, by Ron.
So if you're at the long con, you'll have a chance to win that.
Wait, you can win that beautiful, ginormous.
Well, even
miniature?
more maybe interesting, not to besmirch the giant, but you could get the very 3D printer that it was printed on.
What?
Because TJ at Game Night Games is going to have up, he's going to let go of one of his, what are they?
Resin printers?
Yeah, I'm looking. It's the exact same one that I've got. It's a Epax X1, I think. Well, so it's the exact same model I use at home, folks.
That's a high-quality machine.
Yeah, and I mean, we've seen all the things that have been printed off of it. The quality you can get out of it.
Exactly. Well, wow, that's exciting. So there's a lot of neat stuff. I know there's going to be some silent auction prizes.
I think there's going to be some games, too.
What games? That's crazy talk.
Special guest, David Beatty.
David Beatty's coming?
Yeah. I tried for Ned.
Yeah.
But it just didn't happen.
Now, is Richard LeBlanc? I know he's bought a ticket. Yeah. Is Richard LeBlanc coming?
Yes.
Good deal. I'm looking forward to seeing him. He of Big Dragon. New Big Dragon.
Don't
new
forget that.
Big Dragon,
it's not the old Big Dragon.
Yeah, it's that new Big Dragon. But no, his stuff is top notch. We've got some of his stuff to give away.
Wow.
Just give away. So that's really awesome. All right. Well, we got a lot of cool special guests and stuff. Yeah, I know the Stewarts and whatnot. And that's awesome. So yeah, other folks.
Since no one will listen to this that probably knows what I'm talking about, the Stewarts do that game Victorious.
And you've played that early on.
And I saw one the other day. I think it randomly came up in my Facebook or something like that, where it's like, check out this because you like RPGs. It was Victoriana, which is also a steampunk superhero game, I think.
Wow, so somebody ripped them off?
I don't know, but it's a real similar name.
Wow, similar name, similar ideas. So it's steampunk superheroes, and it's called Victoriana.
I believe so. It's definitely steampunk.
They might have. I want to talk to them. They maybe need to be suing somebody.
But yeah, before you say too much, who knows who came out first?
Well, I guess so. But Victoria's been around for a while. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway,
but yeah, that you would think. Either way, you'd go a little bit further in the naming conventions.
Yeah, I mean, that's, wow. But anyway, yeah, definitely, if you like steampunk and you like superheroes.
Try one of those out.
Yeah, definitely. So that's cool, man. We got a lot of neat people coming. Looking forward to it. It's funny was how many Weird Frontiers game. We already had a lot of Weird Frontiers games posted, and then when David finally decided he was going to come, he added 3 more. So it's like, holy crap! And we've got
He's also running DCC It Consumes,
Yeah.
which is that out? Is that in some
I
weird
think
nebulous gray area?
Just came out, I think. But I'll say that if you like Weird West or just Western style adventures, man, you're gonna be in hog heaven. Which yours truly is running Hellbent for Love. Not to burn this whole thing up, but I need to get off my can and write that.
Don't be one of those people that hasn't written your adventure and cancels out.
Yeah, only a shitbird would do that. But anyway, you can count on me. I'm like a diamond. I'm great under pressure.
Well, the other thing that I am running this time is Barbarians. So I've already, quote unquote, written that and run it a couple of times.
Wow.
So yeah, that's just how it's kind of worked out. But I mean, when I write Barbarian stuff, and I'm sure you'll be the same, it's like 2 paragraphs.
I was going to say, you get to come over to my world where you're being minimalist. Isn't it nice?
Yep.
Yeah, Eddie knows that he and I are different in that regard. Like a lot of times I'll run an adventure from bullet points, That's all I need is bullet points. And then I'll flesh it out from there. But anyway. All right. Well, I'm sure that for those of you that are like, enough about Long Con,
All right. Well, then that will take us into our pop culture goodies.
Yay.
So I will give Matt a second to open up his phone
Carry on, sir. I'm ready.
and say books and comic books.
Carry on. That's your.
I got nothing. You got something?
Oh, nothing in your bailiwick there. Wow, no. So I haven't read any comics or books, but I was just reading something interesting is there's a colorist that works for DC Comics, Gabe, and I hope I'm not mispronouncing his name, El Tabe, that he's to exit DC Comics, not renewing his contract over the Superman motto change. His quote is saying, "I'm tired of them," I guess DC, ruining these characters. And so anyway, just sort of interesting because there's been just a lot of changes in comics, and specifically, why not go after probably one of the more iconic ones, Superman, and there's been a lot of, we'll say, interesting changes that they've decided lately at DC Comics. So anyway, yeah. All right, so that's the only thing I would say about comics and books.
Okay. For books, I will say I got that, was it Wizards of the Game?
Yeah.
Which is about the history of D&D and all that. So once I get through it, I'll hand it off to Matt, and then that's probably an episode in the making right there.
Yeah. I remember one time we talked about Empire of the Imagination, which I had bought, quickly devoured and loaned to you, and you devoured it seemed like. And it was really neat to learn some of the things we did about like Gygax, it was a Jehovah's Witness, etc. Just a lot of neat stuff. And, anyway, the Hollywood period he went through.
But I can tell you this book is a weighty tome. I want to say it's like 20-something on Amazon.
Wow.
So just as a freaking paperweight, I think you get your money's worth. Even if there are no words in it, just for that much blank paper, it probably costs you $26 or something.
Yeah. Something I've been wanting in that vein of knowing more about Arneson and Gygax was I wanted to watch that one thing that was done 2 or 3 years ago by now about Arneson. And really, it was more about his original Game World theme, Blackmore.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, there was that movie, right?
Yeah, you can't.
Was that Dragons in the Basement or something like that? Or is that, am I giving out the wrong one?
I think that might be something different. But I know that, Blackmore, blah, 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 whatever the second part of it was. And then maybe that's it. But anyway, it's hard to find the damn thing.
Yeah, why?
I don't know, but it's like you've got to be on Vimeo or something. And I'm like, I don't want to watch on Vimeo. Apparently, one time it had been on Prime or somewhere else or whatever. I guess the moment's gone, and now good luck. But I want to watch that because I've always wanted to check it out. Number 2 is Matt Rogers watched it, had some good things to say, and I want to mention on the cast if I could tell people, give it a hard pass or check it out or whatever. But anyway, so I'm throwing myself on that grenade for y'all when I can find it in a viewable form.
Well, thanks, buddy.
Hey, no problem.
All right, how about some TV?
Okay, so streaming on Netflix, or no, Hulu in this case, Dope Sick. So it's not gaming or nerd centric, But on a goof, I want to check it out. I really like Keaton, who played Batman back in the day.
Mhm.
I think he's really blossomed in the
Buster Keaton.
exactly in recent years as
Michael.
an actor, Michael Keaton, and he's one of the main characters in that Dope Sick, and it's really intriguing. It's the story of how opioids have really
Yep.
had a terrible negative impact on our country and the world and whatever, and the story of how that came about. It's really intriguing. I mean, of course, there's some stuff in there that you're like, what does this have to do with opioids? But whatever, the stage we live in. But overall, I would say check it out. Your mileage may vary, but there's some good acting. Story's intriguing. There's times you'll be going, wow, no way, So there's that. I also was forced to watch something called You.
No, You,
YOU.
which has bumped Squid Games from the top of the Netflix viewing or something like that.
Really?
Yeah.
And so my new friend,
Who's that?
Jennifer,
Oh, are you making an announcement on the podcast?
I intend to, but
Okay.
whatever. But anywho, we're watching.
Sharp-eared listeners will remember me wanting to give away all Matt's gossip in one of these, but we're getting there. You'll
Anyway.
piece all the clues together.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you're paying attention and you've listened for a while, you'll figure some stuff out. But anyway, she wanted to watch this. I watched it with her. Oh my gosh. Whew. Okay, again, to each their own.
Oh my
But
gosh. Now, I think that was the third season.
yeah, third.
So
season.
did you have to start at the beginning, or did you
Thank-
jump in at the
thank God,
third?
No, I jumped in at the third. But anyway, what I pieced together is he and her are a married couple that are freaking psychopaths. And so as
That
I
sounds like people I've known.
yeah. And so the first couple episodes, he's got all this ennui. I mean, he's just so tragically bored, with life and marriage and fatherhood. And I'm just like, ugh. And for every terrible stereotype of that age group that he looks to be,
Is he a millennial?
like millennials, and I'm like, don't stereotype, don't generalize. But in his case, yeah, he is that age, and it's that whole he lives in this idyllic neighborhood in this beautiful house with this lovely wife with this gorgeous child, and life is so miserable. If only my life had more purpose and all this crap.
Now, let me ask you, is that the point of the show? Like, he's missing all this beauty around him? Or this guy's got a point. Life does suck.
Well, this is his story, and this guy had this terrible, terrible, tragic upbringing, and that's supposed to be the excuse, I guess, for why he's a psychopath. Well, then his wife, whose name is Love, anyway, so he's trying to turn his life around and be a better person for his son, and then his wife keeps killing people, and he's having to hide the bodies and crap. And so between him killing, he's
Is this spoilers?
well, probably, sorry, but needless to say, if you don't know, these people are psychopaths, which what do psychopaths tend to do? They kill a lot of people. But anyway, and I'm going off on a tangent, but but I thought about this. I used to really love gangster movies and shows. And way back in the Stone Age, because I have to think how long it's been since The Sopranos were the hot show of the time.
Mm-hmm.
He would get to work and there'd be that water cooler talk about The Sopranos. I remember a guy one time going, man, the feds almost got Tony. Thank goodness he got away, and those dirty feds. And I'm like, you do understand you're rooting for a psychopath who has murdered people and victimized women and sells drugs and in prostitution. I'm like, that's how this shows. And it's kind of like, I'm going to give props to you.
Thank you.
You were first like, hey, go watch Breaking Bad, which is a phenomenal show. You were like, let me know when Walt crossed your line. Because, yeah, Walt's not a good person. And what's scary is there are people out there, there are people in this country, in this world now, that are like, probably love Walt to the last second. And that's, if you could see his face, that's disturbing. And there are people that are like, Skyler's such a B. And I'm like, what, his wife is trying to rein in his meth selling business and crime sprees and have him be a decent film. I mean, that dirty B, how dare she? Right, this is people, and it's disturbing to where people are rooting. So with this show, no offense, I really couldn't get into it because the two main characters are freaking murderous psychopaths.
But are they flawed characters?
Well, of course they're flawed characters. Yeah. But all I'm gonna say is, I'm sure some out there it's like, I love that show, and man, more power to you.
Apparently, a lot of people. It's
A lot of
popular. That doesn't mean it's good, but it's
But
popular.
that's worrisome because you also look at the incidences of like violence that have spiked up in the last few people are stuck indoors and they're tired from COVID and they're stressed out. Maybe so, but maybe they're watching a show that's normalizing violence.
Oh, Grandpa, get out of here!
Whatever. I'm just saying.
Boo this man.
I know. Anyway, whatever. I'm off my soapbox, but
Is that it for your TV? Because I've got a great one now.
okay, lay it on me.
So I got HBO Max.
Uh-huh.
So I'm going back and watching all the hits because there's a few things that jump out at me, but it's kind of like comfort food or whatever. I will go back and watch some of the old classics I haven't seen in a while. So guess what I've been watching? Sopranos.
Oh wow.
So that was interesting that you brought that up.
Which I like The Sopranos, but I was never rooting for Tony. I mean, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
he's a bad guy. He's a
Yeah.
bad dude, you know?
And that's kind of one of those ones too where you could say the same thing about Tony. You may be like, oh, in episode 5, but at some point he's probably going to cross your line too.
You hope.
Yeah, you would think so, where you stop sympathizing with him or empathizing or
Because
whatever.
they humanize these despicable people, and that's great. And that's great storytelling. That's great writing, in that they can humanize what would be other deplorable characters. But if it's no point or do they seem deplorable to you, it's not because these writers are that brilliant that they've normalized this despicable person. You might want to stop. I don't know. Anyway.
So, still, Sopranos was really good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think, does it end on season 5 or season 6?
It went a while.
I think
I
6.
would think it was maybe 6. There's quite a few.
But that one
seasons.
has like an A and a B. And I remember there were some parts of it that were just a total slog.
When he's in the ICU, I was like
Yep.
pulling teeth.
The Kevin Finity.
But that was
Finnery.
towards the end of it, and it was getting a little long in the tooth, the series.
So when you're not watching it, like that was almost 20 years ago, 13 years
I know,
ago.
that just kills me when I think about that.
And you
Wow.
couldn't fast forward through it live or what have you because you've got to see all this because you don't know what is kind of, I could speed through this.
Fever
So,
dreams or whatever.
yeah. So with the ability to speed through that kind of stuff after you've seen it once, that was pretty nice. The one thing that you can't change too much is AJ's whining. Ugh. And there is a character that really has no sympathy built in for him. Like you could say Skylar with her relationship with Walter White. Yeah, she's the one trying to do the responsible thing.
Mm-hmm.
AJ is just a little bitch through the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
I've been watching the Metalocalypse
Oh.
because they've got that on the HBO Max too.
Oh really?
So checking that out again.
Always been a big fan of that.
Pretty good. Oh, and Curb Your Enthusiasm should be back pretty soon.
Cool.
So looking forward to all that. And
It's totally metal.
how about movies?
So I dusted off an oldie but a goodie. The other day I watched Inner Space,
Mm-hmm. That's Martin Short.
and Dennis Quaid, and the at that time incredibly gorgeous Meg Ryan, their cute little self, way back in the early mid '80s, when all three of those were hot properties, and
Even Martin Short.
yeah, at that time Martin Short was like ooh la la whatever as
He
a
was the
comedian.
up and coming, yeah.
Yeah, comedian, and there really is some, it's a fun little movie, and anyway, it was fun. It does, but I have not watched that in literally 30 years or something. So it was like, woof, but it blows my. So here is the early 80s, and they thought it's all the rage to put like 50s love songs in there. But I figure, look, the time reference, the early 80s to the late 50s, really wasn't that far apart. Whereas now, if they put 50s love music, you'd go, oh man, that is some antiquated stuff.
Well, it's kind of like to make you feel old. They say that we're further away from Back to the Future than Back to the Future was from the 50s back then, that way he traveled back into. If he was traveling back now, he would travel into the 90s or something.
Yeah,
So
that hurts my heart.
there you go. Marty McFly in the 90s.
Oh man, with his frosted tips.
Yeah. And more stuff on HBO Max. They should sponsor us now for all this. But I watched Professor Marson and the Women of Wonder, or the Wonderful, I think Women of Wonder. But that's about the creator of Wonder Woman, creator of one of the lie detectors, blah, 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 this, that, and the other. And it's about his relationship with his wife and their live-in girlfriend or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not a lot about Wonder Woman. It's more about the family and their 35 kids or whatever.
Oh,
But
wow.
it was actually a pretty interesting movie. So check that out if it seems like something
Interesting
you
they
like.
thought this is the guy that they should tap him to help come up with.
No, he came up with it.
He came up with the character and introduced
And
it
took
to
it
them.
to the comics.
Isn't that funny?
Yep.
Wow. So, but
All right, we are burning right through the topics.
Mhm.
Unless you had another movie.
Nope.
Do you have some video games?
No, sir. That's all you.
And really, I had a great back-to-back with the Ghost of Tsushima and Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, and now I'm back in a game lull. I've actually played a little bit of other Castlevania games just for gee whiz, like, I'll hop on this, play it for 5 minutes. Played a little bit of Minecraft.
Wow.
Just, yeah, so
You're really bored.
kind of. But this is kind of, instead of like, I'm going to get deeply into some game and play it for 40 hours straight or something, it's more of like when I get my addiction, when I have to, I have to have something to take care of the Twitch response or whatever, the Twitch muscles.
Right.
And then I've been working on my little projects here.
Oh, my.
So there might be some Kickstarters in our near future.
Kickstarters. What? Well, everybody get ready to start kicking.
I hear you.
There you go.
So no video games for you?
No, sir.
Another ask. There is no First Eid update, no Osric update,
Oh, my.
because I killed those guys fine and dandy last time and they stayed dead. Well, I think last week we worked on putting together this Dwarven Forge dungeon, and then this week I worked on filling it, populating it, the trips and traps and monsters.
Mm-hmm.
So that took up a lot of time too. And then yesterday we actually played it, and I think if you heard from them, they would give it a very favorable report.
Mm-hmm.
So next week we have to do something. Oh, I did get that new, as I reach behind me for a minute,
Dun, 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 dun. Oh, wow.
Temple of Elemental Evil set from
Oh,
Goodman
my
Games.
gosh, that thing is huge.
So it is the 2-volume set for $100,
Wow.
but
It is gorgeous.
it's pretty cool. Papa John was flipping through it, and he really wants to read it just because they always put in those extra behind-the-scenes stories and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And potentially we'll start running that since we've got to come back in with fresh new characters anyway.
Cool.
So we'll see where that goes.
Nice.
All right. So that is all of our pop culture and
One last bit.
formal stuff. Go ahead.
All right. So this morning, just like right as I was getting here, popping up
this
was
morning, and you got your,
there was a Twitch leak. Basically, someone broke into.
you'll probably have to see a urologist.
Exactly. When you were talking about twitching a minute ago, I thought how appropriate. So there was a Twitch leak, break-in, whatever. Somebody hacked their system and disseminated this information. And what they found, who their biggest earners were, I mean, their top earner, Critical Role, $9.6 million.
Screw those guys and their success.
Exactly.
That's the one you were telling me about earlier. Like, people are hating on them now because of the
Yeah.
success. And I hadn't heard that because they're such big earners. I heard that, I guess, since they're getting the animated show or something. And hey, I'm the pot calling the kettle black here. But once something gets popular, if you liked it before it was super popular, then you have to hate it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what your personal relationship, listener, is with Critical Role. I've never been into it, but that doesn't mean I hate them or wish ill upon them. It's just watching somebody else play has not been my cup of tea, and it's been hard to find the time to sit down and watch it and the desire to sit down and watch it.
I've sat down a couple of times and tried to, and I just couldn't do it. And to each their own. We never would have met Laurelyn. We never would have met Cody. I don't think if it wasn't for Critical Role, that's what brought them to tabletop gaming. So bravo.
Yeah.
And I don't doubt that they've done good things for the hobby. But
WotC owes them a lot.
yeah. But I will say that, and you know where most of this vitriol is, go figure, that dumpster fire full of diapers that is Twitter is where people are really like, trying to drag them through the dirt. But anyway, I just thought that was interesting. And that's like even someone made the comment like, well, man, it sounds like they probably didn't need to have done that Kickstarter or go whatever to get the money for their cartoon. They probably could have just reached into their own, pockets.
But
for
why?
it. But why? Exactly. And so, yeah, I mean,
If you can get it funded by somebody else.
exactly.
Speaking as somebody that's going to start a Kickstarter, right?
Yeah. But I mean, I'm talking about we don't have 9.6 million or anything close to it in our back pocket.
Well, I hate to say like proportionately,
Yeah.
maybe.
But ultimately, well, here's the thing: like with us, we have a little con that barely breaks even every time, so it's not like we're rolling in the dough.
But what if somebody said, "I'll pay all the costs associated with that con, and you guys just take the profit"? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And hey, don't
we
get me
will
wrong.
sell out in a hurry.
You know, people know they've listened to this. I have no problem with capitalism. I think it's great that those people are making money. Heaven forbid. Here's the thing: is if they weren't, would they keep doing it? And then so think how much you enjoy
Right.
it. If you enjoy it, and yeah, that's why people don't do things just out of. No one's doing it out of the charity of their own sweet little hearts. I mean, they're going to get paid if they're going to keep doing it. You know. So anyway, so that's all I have to say about pop
Vote
culture.
with your wallet.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, I just thought y'all might find that interesting. I did.
I hope you did out there.
Okay, and I will have some stuff for next time that I have a list of things to watch.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. Should I tease?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not out yet, but Spine of the Night. I posted a video for Eddie to see. Yeah, that's coming out soonish.
Did this movie just tell me to get high?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes, it did.
I said yes, it did. But Spine of the Night looks really intriguing. It's a cartoon, but it's like rotoscope. Not rotoscope, but what is it?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Bakashi used to do Bakshi or whatever years ago. Yeah, rotoscope. So it's going to be like rotoscope. So it's real
Which I
interesting.
have to say, that movie might be fantastic, but I am not a fan of the rotoscope.
Rotoscope, yeah. And then there's also because I'm getting into kind of a Western flair lately. You know, it's like I watched Hateful Eight recently. I watched Josie Wales. I'm going to watch Bone Tomahawk soon. You know what I'm talking about. And then talking about rotoscoping and the classic, talking about Frazetta and how great his work is, I'm going to rewatch Fire and Ice. I remember seeing that at the theater as a young man, and I don't know why as a kid I was underwhelmed. So it'll be fun to watch again as an adult here 40 some odd years, maybe almost 35, 40 years later. This will be interesting.
Wow.
So we'll see. I'll and who knows if you get a chance to watch it in the meantime, some of these, or you can wait to hear what I have to say, whatever, or not.
Well, I'll tell you what's coming up. Well, we're just mercilessly teasing the listener.
Yeah.
The new Dune.
Yeah, I'm excited about it because I've always loved the books. For
So
sure.
there has been a lot of good reviews on it so
Good
far.
buzz.
So I am looking forward to it, and I will be checking that out very soon. I want to say that comes out on the 21st now. I think it was originally the 22nd, but it might be like one of those of the night of the 21st or something crazy, but
And
it's
that
right around the corner.
And that might be one that, to go see at the theater, maybe. I know the AMC theaters now are like lounging chairs that are heated and warmed, cooled, air conditioned, with a back massager. I mean, they've really tried to up their game to get you back in the theater. So, and I love to see if it's something that's one of those big blockbusters. It's just something about seeing on a big screen with stereophonic sound and all that.
Yeah.
We'll see.
All right, so I am told there is a topic.
There is a topic. So usually we start talking about the long con, a little pop culture in the middle, and we usually end with something gaming centric. And sometimes, who knows, it's a grab bag of stuff. But today I want to talk about magic items. Magic items.
Okay, talk about them.
Well, so if you're thinking back to a lot of the old early adventures, like right over here behind me is the Secret of Bone Hill, and in that one, I can remember just or in some of those old adventures like that, in those blocks in the room, you find a +1 sword, you find a +1 dagger, Borderlands or something. Oh, you look at that hollowed out tree, there's +1 dagger, +1 this, +1 that. They gave away stuff like that pretty willy nilly. And was that good? Was that bad? I mean, as a player, it's fun getting a magic item. And honestly, you probably need the help because the characters didn't have all the bells and whistles they have now. And I note that when 5th edition came out, it seemed like it wasn't, I don't know if they actually came out and never said it somewhere in the books, but I got the impression they kind of wanted you to back off being overly generous with magic items because the players have so much oomph from their class abilities and all the bells and whistles they have. You don't need that +3 sword or whatever. And then talking about, old school D&D, yeah, you'd find a +1 sword, +1 dagger, whatever, but it was just that, a +1 sword, ho hum. Also, it seems like, as I remember, weren't there monsters where like you had to have a +1, +2, +2 sword to even be able to strike that monster?
Yeah, it seems like there's quite a few.
Yeah. So back then, it's like, I want to fight that Glabrezu. Well, if you don't have a +2 weapon, you can't even harm them. Well, we got a wizard. Yeah, the creature's 75% magic immune. Good luck with that. I mean, And so, as I'd be curious to the listener, like if they're like, ugh, I don't like the sound of that, where if something just sundered or I lost my +3 sword, well, I can't even harm this monster? Nope. So I don't know. But talking about where did role-playing games form out of? They came from like fantasy writing, fantasy literature, and those tropes and things. And you think of like Bilbo, he found the One Ring. And so Tolkien's kind of like a game master. Like, he's a new game master, and sometimes they're overly generous. Monty Hall. And he let a thief of all people find a ring of unlimited invisibility. And it's kind of like that game master later goes, man, I shouldn't have gave a thief a ring of invisibility. So he goes, ooh, I'll just retcon a little backstory for that ring in this bigger cursed. Yeah. And so now this thing is a conduit where the evil lord of Mordor can get in your brain, and when you're wearing it, him and his forces know where you're at, and da. That way I can keep you from just wearing that ring 24/7 and robbing everybody and blah blah blah. And so that's the same thing to consider if you want to give your players a really powerful magical item. And definitely if it's a point in the game where they probably shouldn't have something like that, well, there you go. There should be pros and cons, i.e. cursed, and or even we've seen like, and I like DCC, and one thing that I like is there's not just magic items raining from the sky, and when you do find some of the better ones, they've got a little bit of an FU built into them, so that you have to make that decision like, man, this sword does some cool stuff, but it does some crap stuff too. Well, oh well, so that,
It's a +1 sword, but every time you swing it, a baby dies somewhere in the world.
Yeah. So, so we were talking about cursed items, and once again, cursed items were pretty, depending on how much of a tool your game master or mistress was, they could be a common item or a rare item or whatever, but they were a thing in old school D&D. There was a spear that if you swung at somebody and rolled a 1, it would literally curve around and stab you in the back or something. And but I've noticed, like, if you look in the current 5th edition DMG, there aren't any cursed items in the set magic item area, are there? I don't think there are. So it's just interesting that, well, are they trying to send a message like, hey, cursed items aren't fun, don't do that? I don't know.
Well, now I think when you pick it up pretty much that it's cursed, or when you sit down with it for 30 minutes to identify it, to attune and all that, you're like, oh, this is cursed, let me throw it away.
And so but then you'd figure while you're attuning, it should bond with you regardless. Now, teehee, it's cursed or whatever, but that's the thing. Now you sit there and meditate with the weapon to bond with it. So one thing I remember, I noticed that, like, I'd gotten a mindset of, magic items should be rarer as a game master, but then I realized the good thing about being a game master and a player is, as a player, it's fun to find magic items, like, oh boy, whatever. So you want to give players that fun, but you don't want it to be so Monty Hall, or you could try to strike that balance. Well, what I found in more recent years, at the lower levels, I'll give away a lot of expendable magic items. Or, like, if y'all remember when we were playing Adventures League, we only found one magic item the whole first season, the +1 bow you got. That was the only magic weapon in all those adventures. We just kept waiting when people would, like, claim their magic item for the adventure. Well, I'm going to hold off because I just know that
+1 sword's around the corner.
You just got to be coming, because the time was those would rain from the sky. No. In fact, if it wasn't for the fact that we started with the Lost Mines of Phandelver, my paladin would not even have had a +1 sword, but he found that in Phandelver. And even then, what I liked though is when you did find that +1 sword, it had a name, it had a backstory, it had a history. It made it seem
a bin number.
Yeah. So it made it seem more cool that, you might go, ho hum, it's a +1 sword. We didn't find a lot of magic items, so that made it seem more ooh-ah. And for 2, it had, like I said, had a name, it had a backstory. That's the kind of thing. And one thing you could even do, like if someone goes, yeah, it's just a +1 sword, but hey, Game Master, have it shed light out to like 5 feet or something. So that means it's like, ooh, this thing glows when you unsheath it or whatever. Give it little minor bells and whistles that aren't game breaking, but you can make it a little sexier than just it's a +1 sword or dagger or whatever. And I remember like talking about those characters from Adventures League when we quit the Adventures League adventures. And we started using old Living Greyhawk adventures that we kind of tinkered up to work with 5th edition. I threw in at the lower levels trinket magic items. Well, what do you mean by trinket? They were minor, like there was a bell that gave off a silence field like in a 2-foot radius. Well, in the right player's hand, that could be brilliant. So the party gave that to the plate wearer and said, yeah, tie it around your ankle. Guess what? She went from being the person that made all this racket walking around to being the most silent person. At least her armor might still creak or clank. But I took where instead of being normally wearing heavy armor, you have disadvantage on stealth. It was just, straight roll. Like anybody in the party could have taken that, but the party was smart enough to give that to Ellerby. You remember you had that mug that it was a big ale mug that
you could always find the nearest tavern.
You could always find the nearest tavern. Now, first of all, a lot of players would go, well, that's stupid. That's a weak magic item. No, in the hands of the brilliant player, we ever get lost
Who
in
especially
the woods.
was the ranger.
Yeah, you get lost in the
I
woods.
know exactly where we're going.
Yeah, I know where the next town is, or the next tavern or
And
whatever.
luckily he was an alcoholic.
Yeah, there you go. So, I mean, you can see where giving what seems at first like a very minor power, and it still wouldn't game breaking, but for the player with the right mindset, it's like, oh, these are neat, little items. And like I said, if there's something that could do something nifty, but give it like a set number of uses, then it goes away. Like I said, expendable, or it only works once a day, so it's not being abused. So that's where you can give players magic items, even like I say early on, but really save the real Staff of the Magi, Staff of Power, whatever, for later in the deep campaign. Early on, still give out magic, but make sure it's not anything that's game breaking. And there's ways to limit it. So it's still fun. It's still magic. Potions, dusts. They used to be like the dust of disappearance. You sprinkle that over yourself. I'm invisible. Yeah, but how many pinches of this powder are there? Or potions can be fun, but they're generally one use, But anyway, what would any input on that? Magic items from you as a game master, as a player?
Not really. Did you have some more?
Not really, no.
Okay. The thing is that I know this and you don't. All this Dwarven Forge is going away today, and they're on the way to come get it.
Oh, okay.
So this is one we'll have to wrap up. It may end with the sound of a doorbell on here, guys. Yeah. But the one thing that I'll add in about, hopefully real quick, on magic items is when your magic items don't grow with you. That's one thing that I like to incorporate in sometimes is where because it is so cool when you get that first sword and it's Frostburn or something like that, and you've got a history for it, and then 2 adventures further you find the +2 sword and you're like, well, fuck you, Frostburn.
You throw it away.
Yeah. You get a bond when you start adventuring with these magic items. So something to think about as a GM, maybe a way that you can level up the magic items with the players. And I know there are systems that do that. Go ahead.
No, that's brilliant. And we've talked about this before. Unless I'm crazy, Earthdawn used to have a system where because they thought too that it was crap that you'd find this magic item at first level that you adored and then you'd throw it away. No, it could grow with you. And the idea was over time you would go and interact with some sort of sage or something that help you learn more of the lore of the weapon. As you learn more about it, you unlock new powers and abilities. So how cool that a person could start with a sword at first level and keep that sword until 10th level or whatever, or to the end of their character's line, because that sword grew with them and unlocked different powers and abilities. I think it's a cool concept. That's a cool idea. And you obviously do too. So yeah. But anywho, but as usual, we'd love to hear what you guys think.
And this might be something that we can flesh out and come back to a little bit more and talk about it.
Circle back.
Some of your favorite magic weapons.
Yeah, magic items, period.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Got anything else?
No, good to talk to everybody. Hope y'all are having a good time, and we'll talk with y'all soon.
And we'll dive into mass relationships and gossip later. because I can see by that clock on the wall. I'm all out of hit points. Bye bye.
Bye bye.